All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're going to talk about how to take a whole mess of confusing data and turn it into clear, compelling stories, all by using the right kinds of charts.
Have you ever felt like you're just drowning in numbers? You've got spreadsheets, reports, data points coming from everywhere, and you're just lost. The real question is, how do you find the actual story that's hiding in there?
Well, that's exactly where charts come in. You got to think of them as storytelling tools. They're designed to cut through all that noise and transform it into a narrative that you can actually see and understand. It's your toolkit for finding the hidden story. So let's start with the most basic, most common question we ask of data. Which is more? This is all about comparing different groups and categories. And for that job, our number one tool is the classic bar chart. It's so simple but so effective. It just uses these rectangular bars to compare things. And the rule couldn't be easier, right? The taller the bar, the higher the value. Done. And I mean, look how fast you get the story here. You glance at this and you don't even need to read the numbers. You can just see it. Basketball is the clear favorite. That's the magic of a good, simple chart. It gives you the answer instantly. Okay, so that's perfect for a simple comparison. But life isn't always that simple, is it? What happens when the story has another layer? What if we need to compare things within each of those groups? For that, we level up. We use what's called a clustered bar chart. This is a really clever tool that groups bars together, which lets us compare two different things at the exact same time. So check this out. For each subject, math, science, and English, we now have two bars sitting side by side, one for 9th graders, one for 10th graders. This one chart can now answer a much more complex question, like, do 9th or 10th graders prefer science more? See how the story just got a whole lot richer? But comparing one item to another is only one piece of the puzzle. Sometimes you need to zoom out. You need to see the bigger picture and answer the question, what does this entire group of data actually look like? To do that, we focus on 5 key numbers. The first 2 are a piece of cake, the minimum and the maximum, just the smallest and largest values. The other 3 help us find the middle ground. So if you lined up all your data from lowest to highest, the median is the one smack dab in the middle. The quartiles then mark the 25% point and the 75% point. And those 5 numbers together, they give you an amazing snapshot of your data. And when you turn those 5 numbers into a picture, you get this, the box and whisker plot. I want you to think of this as an X-ray of your data. In one quick look, it shows you where the center is and how spread out everything is. It's incredibly efficient. So the most important thing to remember is this, that box in the middle represents the heart of your data, the middle 50%. The whiskers that stretch out show you the full range, from the absolute lowest to the highest value. It really tells you about the personality of your data. A short, compact box means your data is super consistent. A long, stretched out box, that tells you there's a ton of variation. Okay, but what if your data is hiding a secret? What happens when there isn't just one central group, but maybe 2 distinct groups all mixed together in your dataset? Well, that's what we call a bimodal distribution. It sounds complicated, but all it means is 2 modes or 2 peaks. Instead of having one most common value, your data actually has 2. Here's the perfect way to picture this. If you measured the heights of only adult men, you'd get a standard distribution, one single peak around the average height. But what if you measured the heights of both men and women and threw them into the same data set? You wouldn't get 1 peak anymore. You'd get 2. One for the average height of women and another, taller peak for the average height of men. You see? It reveals 2 separate stories that were hiding in plain sight. So far, we've really only been looking at snapshots. But many of the best stories aren't snapshots, they're movies. So how do we tell the full story with multiple layers as it changes over time?
For that, we bring out the big guns, the bubble line chart. This thing is seriously powerful. It starts as a normal line chart, which is great for showing change over time. But then it adds this extra layer of information by using the size of the bubbles to represent a whole third dimension of data. I know it might look a little complex at first, but it's really easy to read if you just break it down. Step 1. Just follow the line. That's your main value changing over time. Step 2. Look at the size of the bubbles. That's a whole second story being told at each point in time. And you can even add a third layer by using color. It's like getting 3 charts in one.
Let's use a real-world example to make it stick. Imagine the line is tracking how many new customers your company got each week. Okay, pretty useful. But now imagine the size of the bubble shows how much money, on average, those new customers spent. You could instantly spot a week where maybe you got fewer customers, but whoa, look at that giant bubble. They were really big spenders. That's a story you would completely miss with a basic chart. So we have covered a ton of ground. Let's pull it all together into your visual toolkit, because the single most important lesson here is knowing how to choose the right chart for the question you're trying to answer. And here it is. This is your cheat sheet, your problem solver's toolkit. If your question is a simple, which is more, grab a bar chart. If you need to add a subgroup to that question, use a clustered bar chart. Want to know what the whole group looks like? Get a feel for its shape? The box and whisker plot is your friend. And to tell that rich, layered story over time, the bubble line chart is your powerhouse. And just by knowing which tool to use for which question, you've unlocked a really powerful skill. You're not just someone who looks at data anymore, you're a data storyteller. So I'll leave you with a final thought. The next time you see a chart, anywhere, in an article, in a meeting, anywhere at all, I want you to pause for a second, look a little closer and ask yourself, what's the real story this chart is trying to tell me?